Ethical and legal issues. This lesson, we're going to look at safeguarding intellectual property, avoiding plagiarism, and making ethical decisions. I want you to be able to explain the concept of intellectual property, including copyright and trademarks. Be able to identify the difference between copyright violations and plagiarism. Demonstrate a proper use of citations and fair use. Be able to discuss the ethical challenges facing digital media, including piracy and file sharing, and explain how licensing applies to software. Intellectual property is a legal concept that protects creative work just as if it were physical property. The term copyright literally means restricting the right of others to copy. To be copyright protected, an idea must be converted into a physical form. A copyright notice follows the format, which is copyright, your copyright symbol, the date, and then the name of the copyright holder. It's not necessary to place a copyright notice on a creative work to make it legally protected. The copyright is also administered by the U.S. Copyright Office. Copyrightable works include the following categories: musical works, including any accompanying words; dramatic works, including any accompanying music; motion pictures and other audiovisual works; pantomimes and choreographic works; pictorial, graphic, and sculptural works; sound recordings; architectural, and literary works. Permission is simply asking to obtain permission to use a copyrighted material. Royalties. A royalty is a fee paid to the person who owns the copyright on a creative work when it's used by someone else. A royalty-free is a type of licensing agreement that gives the buyer almost unlimited permission to use the copyrighted image for a one-time fee. Software licenses. Proprietary means the software code has restricted use of rights. An end-user license agreement, or EULA, is a contract that software purchasers must agree to before using the software. Open source software allows others to use it use its code without cost. Copyleft is a licensing protection used by those who create open source software. GNU General Public License is the standard open source contractor license. Works in the public domain are those creative works whose copyright restrictions have expired, or which are open sourced. Trademarks. A trademark is a distinctive word, phrase, or image used to identify something as a product of a particular business or organization. It automatically conveys the identity of the organization it represents. You don't need to be registered to be protected from use by others without permission. Registered trademarks carry the little R symbol, while unregistered trademarks use the TM symbol. They're also administered by the United States Patent and Trademark Office. So think about it. Do you think copyrights are needed? If there were no protections for creative work, would people still produce movies, publish music, or create software? Would artists paint and would writers write? Would you be more or less willing to be creative if you knew that your work could be used without your permission? Illegal file sharing. File sharing is a useful means of transferring information from one computer to another. The term file sharing has come to mean the illegal transfer of copyrighted material between computers. It is a form of copyright violation. Having paid for work does not mean that you can share it with anybody you want to. Uploading or downloading copyrighted material without permission is against the law. Piracy is copying a product, which is often digital, for profit without authorization from the owner. Music and video products, as well as software, are frequently subject to pirating, which is why Adobe has moved from their CS software to, with their new release of the CC Creative Cloud, because it's going to make file sharing and bootlegging it much more difficult. Digital rights management, DRM, is a form of technology that controls digital copying by inserting a software program onto the CD or other media that actually restricts copying. So, fair use guidelines. Fair use is the right to reproduce a small part of copyrighted work for educational or other not-for-profit purposes without having to obtain permission or pay a royalty fee. Fair use is determined using guidelines that are part of Title 17 of the United States Code. To determine the amount of work that may be used, you have to consider the overall work. Plagiarism is copying or otherwise using someone else's creative work and claiming it as your own, usually in an academic or journalistic work, but also more recently in social media. To avoid plagiarism, document the source of your material. It's not enough to cite the source of copyright material to avoid copyright infringement. You cannot use copyrighted material in your own work except under fair use guidelines without the owner's permission, even if it is properly cited. The 5 basic components of a proper website source citation are the author, the date, the article, the title of the article, the access date, and the URL. Deep linking is citing a web address that goes beyond the home page or the entry page. The American Psychological Association, or APA, has proper web citations as the author's last name and then first name, followed by the date, the year, the month, the article title, the retrieval date, and where you retrieved it from. MLA has the article's last and first name, the title, the date, publisher, and date retrieved. And online bibliographies are websites that help you create a bibliography entry. Most allow you to designate your desired style. So ethics in photo editing. Moral choices between right and wrong actions are referred to as ethics. Some ethical questions for image editing include: is it ethical to make a model look thinner than she is in real life? Is it ethical to change a sky from cloudy to bright blue? Is it ethical to add a missing family member to a group photo? Is it ethical to remove someone from a photo because you no longer like the person? Is it ethical to use a photo taken by someone else and distort the image, making the subject appear ridiculous? When making a decision, think about the harm you're doing to others. Does your action hurt someone? Is it a form of stealing? Does it prevent someone from earning a living? Does your action encourage another person to hurt someone? Business and ethics are not mutually exclusive terms. Suppose your supervisor asks you to create a series of graphs using financial data you know has been falsified. Or what if a coworker was fired last month for refusing to do this? What do you then do? Some key concepts to take away are: intellectual property is the creation of the mind that is treated as tangible property. Copyright laws give the owner of a creative work the legal right to restrict who may copy the work. A trademark is a distinctive word, phrase, or image that visually identifies something as a product of a particular business or organization. Fair use allows students and some professionals to reproduce a small part of another person's work, though proper credit should be given to the creator. Plagiarism involves copying another person's creative work and claiming it as your own. Piracy involves stealing another person's creative work, usually for profit. And ethical decisions require you to make choices about what is right. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.